The crippling economic conditions and high unemployment rate have left many families in South Africa in desperate situations as they battle for survival. Let's speak now to Lorenzo Davids, CEO of the Development Impact Fund. He has written a series of 2 articles titled "The Poverty That the Poor of Our Country Endure." Thank you very much, Lorenzo, for availing yourself this afternoon. This reads like a book or 2 chapters or from a book, rather, that you would have maybe read, 10, 20 years ago, and still it persists in South Africa in 2022. What bothered you that prompted you to write this article?
Good afternoon, Dudu, to you and your viewers. Yeah, it came from the research that we have been doing over the last year now. In fact, this week it's a full year, where we've been engaging and talking to South African people on the ground. And the stories are heartbreaking. You're right. This country should not be in the food insecurity space and in the unemployment space it currently finds itself in. And people are telling stories that are heartbreaking, just severe poverty that has beset people.
In part 1 of The Poverty That the Poor of Our Country Endure, you tell the story of a woman who has children and faced with the prospect of having no food on the table for that evening, then offers her body as a form of payment. She gets a mere 20 rand. She sends her children to go buy food, and the very person that gave her that 20 rand after procuring her services then robs those children. But then it's not just this individual, right, that keeps on, for lack of a better word, raping this family. You believe the government too is doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. Government is letting people down. We have in the age cohort 15 to 24, we have 10 million South Africans, of which 7.5 million are completely without income. And so you're sitting with a youth population, that 15 to 24-year-old, that has no means of getting any funding. Some of them are mothers, became mothers at the age of 15, 16, 17. They are now 23, 24 years old. And what is there to do? So people turn to what I call high-risk employment opportunities, which is selling their bodies for sex, drugs, smuggling, illegal activities, corruption. And so that's the means how they sustain themselves. And that can be as basic, Dudu, as taking a train without a ticket to go somewhere to beg in a community, or selling drugs. And it's that severe.
Yeah, and in part 2, you say people use your story in media because they think, what a wonderfully resilient human being you are. But it's not resilience. It's remote control. What then is the role of media in reporting on stories of the everyday South African?
I think we've oversold resilience as if it's some kind of badge of honor that poor people should wear. Poor people should not be wearing a badge of honor called resilience. Poor people should be wearing badges called food security, quality education, safety and security. Those are the things that builds a good, strong, healthy community. South African people, the 10 million young people, suffer from what we call multidimensional poverty. There are 7 features in multidimensional poverty. So lack of housing, lack of food, lack of sanitation, lack of water, lack of education, lack of health. Those things beset those people. They can't move beyond that. Let me give you an example. The recent Food Affordability Index produced a survey which said that the average food basket now in South Africa for a family of 4 cost us 4,688 rand and 81 cents. The social relief of the stress grant is 350 rand per month. So juxtapose 4,688 rand versus 350 rand for food. The 350 rand can only buy 2 days worth of food that a family of 4 would need to survive a month. So you can see after 2 days, the grant is spent. There's no way for that family to live the other 28 days. That's why we need to urgently address the issues of this looming poverty crisis we are sitting with in South Africa. And media must tell that story. We can celebrate a grant, we can celebrate resilience and tell how amazing it is. But there was a sex worker called Lee Davis who in a Sunday paper in 2017 said these words, and this is what the media should pick up on. They got up one day and they thought to themselves as they went to the streets. The article says, they said to themselves, for whom will I perform my poverty today? And that's the edge we should have in telling the stories of South Africa's poor.
You further note that politicians, NGOs and religious leaders don't wish to listen to your rage in relation to the everyday South African. They want your compliance. I can't even remember how many presidential imbezos have been hosted in the past few months, right, where people ventilate their issues, and it's issues that have been long-standing. You speak of the working class in South Africa, and there's this concept of the middle class or black middle class, if you will, but many people will tell you that it's just one paycheck away from poverty. So you've highlighted that the situation is not sustainable. What to do tangibly if then at every sector of society, NGOs and religious leaders, not only just government, no one is rising to lift the other?
Yeah, nobody wants to listen to the poor people who are really angry. We want a poor population that's really compliant, that stands there with begging hands and say, thank you for 350 rand, or thank you for the T-shirt, or thank you for the loaf of bread or the food parcel. That's the kind of poor that we love. And for a society born out of such an intelligent revolution in this country that was sane and just and fair, to now shut down the voices of rage is an evil that we are perpetrating against poor people. We should be allowing people to give us their rage, because we came to this freedom with rage. 76 was the rage of kids on the streets telling us that they want their freedom. Now we shut them down. We don't want to listen to them. Our Mbizos and our NGOs and our churches and mosques must be filled with compliant people who don't upset the status quo. This status quo needs to be upset. People need to talk about how angry they are. Because if we don't allow it now, when it becomes worse in 5 years' time, we won't have the mechanisms to cope with that rage.
Lorenzo Davids is the CEO of the Development Impact Fund, and he penned the articles, The Poverty That the Poor of Our Country Endure. You can find those online.